For the first time since the backyard brawl, Pitt has actually looked like a good team. Is that Pitt playing good, or their opponents playing bad? We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world! Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of November 19th, 2022, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
Top 2 keynotes right off the bat this week. The D-line looked like the Pitt D-line last week, and I think they could finish in the top 3 in the entire country of defensive lines if they keep it up. And the other note, Slovis is going to be one hell of an XFL quarterback, Vince. That's my take from that game against UVA.
A lot of discussion on both those topics I've seen this week. Maybe not quite XFL related, but Keaton Slovis's future with this program. We'll be discussing that a little later on. But yeah, the defense, particularly that defensive line, really rounding into form. Was that, I don't know if that was a product of playing against a couple teams that are just inept offensively, but we'll discuss this week. Either way, great victory for the Panthers on Saturday.
Absolutely, and of course we got the breakdown of the upcoming game against Duke. So we have a lot of work to do this week, big college football games to get into. Before we do it all, let's Carney bark at you and tell you that you could hit us up on Twitter at H2P Show. And of course, DMs are always open. Reach out that way if you do it on social media, or if you want to send an email, hail2pittpodcast@gmail.com. That's hail, H-A-I-L, the number 2, pittpodcast@gmail.com. We always welcome hot takes, angry fanthers, support, kind words, suggestions. It's all welcome and appreciated. We appreciate all the feedback and love and the hate, although we don't really get any because Pitt fans are kind to each other. And of course, Panther Lair's where it's at. People aren't always kind on there, Vince, but for the most part, I'd say it's pretty civil, even though it gets kind of rowdy. And of course, you got Reddit everywhere. Pitt, people talking Pitt, we're there, and we appreciate everybody. And we appreciate our great sponsors and, of course, our production team at Pretty Easy Podcasts. Super affordable, super friendly, super easy to work with. You just go to prettyeasypodcast.com and you say, hey, I want to do a podcast and I need help. I don't know anything about all this audio stuff. I'm a professional and I want to do a show about my profession. Like, I don't know, maybe you're a car salesman and you want to tell everyone how you're the king of cars or the queen of cars, and you don't know anything about audio or editing. You know all about, I don't know, selling cars. Well, Pretty Easy Podcast comes in at an affordable rate, and they help you with all that stuff you don't know about, and you sound like a professional production, just like we do each and every single week here on the Hail to Pitt podcast. And all you have to do is go to prettyeasypodcast.com.
And they make podcasting pretty easy.
And they do's it large, baby, because they're showing up, and we're international this week, Vince. I'm watching Pitt games now in Europe the rest of the year. Except this last game I watched on the road to the airport to get to Europe. But this weekend, this Duke game will be my first game. I believe I'll be in Portugal during Pitt Duke. Okay. I don't think I'm going to find any Pitt bars in Porto?
I don't know if Pitt's has a big following in Portugal. Some other European countries, sure, but probably not Portugal.
Well, maybe throughout the show I'll be Googling it while you talk and try to find it. If anyone knows any spots in Portugal for me to watch the Pitt game against Duke, hit me up. But let's review this Virginia game first, Vince. And before we even get into the game, horrible news after that game and the shooting of a few Virginia football players passing away, horrific. And just as a Pitt fan and someone from the other side of last weekend's game, all my heart, my soul goes out to everybody. That is just terrible, unnecessary, and god-awful.
Yeah, just an absolute tragedy. Horrible that it happened. Horrible that it happened to a first class university like Virginia. Just absolutely awful. They've canceled their game against Coastal Carolina this week. Unsure if they're going to play their season finale against Virginia Tech. All ACC teams are going to be honoring the passing of the several Virginia players this Saturday. Just a horrible tragedy.
Yeah, as they should. The ACC will pay homage to them. I know Pitt will. And yeah, just horrible to see after a game where, we could have maybe it's really just awful. You kind of want to get into some things, but you don't. So you got to tread lightly. You don't want to gloat or anything. I think Pitt's handled this with class, coming off a pretty dominant win against UVA last weekend.
Yep. Started the game. Not much better you can do than what the Panthers did. 2 pick sixes back to back. MJ Devonshire and Marquez Williams. That's some good stuff there. Jumping on them early.
Never seen anything like that wasn't in a game of Madden or NCAA.
Yeah, just wild. And once Pitt was up there, they scored 2 more times. 28-0 at the half, just absolutely dominating. Virginia. I think Virginia only had like 56 total yards at half. Allen. They only had 144 for the whole game. Pitt's offense, it didn't have to do a whole lot, but certainly in that first half, they got. They added some extra scores and really put the game out of reach.
I've never seen a game end in the first 14 seconds. It was over right away.
I don't know if you remember this, Alan, but in 2007, we had to go to a Buffalo Wild Wings to watch a Pitt play at Virginia in a game that was on ESPNU, which at the time was a channel nobody got. And Pitt was down very early in that game as well. It was over in the first 5 minutes, down 21-0 or something like that. So I feel like, those demons have been exercised for sure here. But yeah, it was something. And I'll say this, if it wasn't for Pitt being such a heavily penalized team, in that second half, they would have scored several more times. This really could have been even a bigger blowout than what it was.
Oh, absolutely. That was, I don't know if it was not wanting to pour it on or just still being, no, we know what it was. They're just undisciplined. They just can't, even in a game like that. So what are you going to do? But hey, that is near perfect on the defensive side of the ball, if you ask me. 8 sacks in that game. Not that they were, playing against the Tennessee Volunteers, but to go out there and do that against any team in the ACC is awful impressive. And it's the first time we saw, I think, the Pitt defense that we were hoping to see all year.
Yeah. You had sacks from multiple sacks from Kalijah Cansey and John Morgan, Haba getting in there as well. Last week, against Syracuse. With them having a backup quarterback, it was kind of a deer in headlight situation. But this week they went up against Brandon Armstrong, who's still one tough customer. Just a huge falling from grace there. Whenever you switch up, head coach and offensive coordinator, and things just obviously not clicking for them this year. But he's still, I think, still a very good quarterback. Maybe doesn't quite have the supporting cast around them, but Pitt just got to him early, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, that was an awful impressive performance by the defense. I'll say it again. That was the Pitt D being the Pitt D line. I think at the end of this year, you could be talking about one of the best units if you're talking about grading and whatnot at the end of the year, because they look like who we thought they could be at the start of the year. It was very, very, very exciting to see. Unfortunately, a little too little too late. So Pitt still obviously not playing for any ACC championship appearances, but rounding out this schedule in games they absolutely should win. This was one of them. This against Syracuse with a backup quarterback, that was one of them. And they're capable of beating all these teams, I think, as long as they just don't get in their own way, which in this game they did not. And Slovis even went out there and was pretty efficient for the most part, but still pretty mid if you ask me. And I'll speak a little bit about his second half performance after you, but nowhere near where you hoped he'd be at this point in the season.
Well, I'll say this, and I just think that they don't run the type of offense, that he's really going to come out and put up tons of numbers, and we could critique his play, but it was 14 for 24, 200 yards, not great, but no bad interceptions, got rid of the ball when he needed to. I thought one of the biggest things from this game, Alan, was Bub Means and Konate Mumfield doing their part. Making some big catches, making some plays when they got the ball. I thought this was one of the few games this year that his receivers really helped him out. More going downfield, more aggressive. I liked what we saw. Again, didn't need to do a whole lot. But what I saw, I thought it was okay. I'm not saying he played great. I'm not saying he had, excellent mechanics. But I thought for the situation, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I'll shout out. You brought him up though. Bub Means there too, though. How about his performance early in the game too? He's making big plays. That was good to see for him. You say about Slovis, he's not in the right system maybe or whatever. To be 14-24 though, and just like pretty inaccurate, all consistently all year. I don't care what offense you're in. I mean, he just doesn't hit guys, and he's gets hard to watch sometimes. I will say huge improvements from maybe the Georgia Tech game and other horrendous appearances. Hopefully those are all out of his system. He's got 2 big games coming up that you want to see Pitt win, so you get to the third game and the bowl game and finish off the season proper. Pitt against UVA, though, in this game, overall, you can't ask for anything more, really, because you came out and won the game early. Second half, are you angry they didn't score more? They kicked a bunch of field goals. I'm not. The running back still went out there, and they performed well. Izzy got his 100 plus. So, really, would you say this is the best Pitt performance of the season?
It was certainly the easiest win. I'll say that. I mean, I don't know if this certainly to me was not the best the offense looked at times. But the defense, I mean, my goodness, this was certainly the best. I think they looked. But I mean, it's just a wild situation whenever you get up that quickly on a team, and what that does to the team on the other side, the team that had a losing record, is not going to go to a bowl game, and then and they're in a situation where here they go again. But maybe best all around performance. Yeah, maybe we do need to say that.
I'd say as a total team effort, this might be my top of the season, but I think they still can outdo this easily. Like you said, offense wasn't that great. So, but overall, this was probably the best Pitt's looked all year collectively as a team. And is that saying much? I don't know. They're a middle of the road ACC team is where they're at this year, and a chance to finish off the season. Just under those top tier teams in the conference, sitting at 6-4 now. Vince, bowl eligible. Before we break down Duke, we're moving forward. What bowl game should I be circling? Can Pitt play they can't play in Europe, you said, so I won't be seeing them in a bowl game. Where we think everyone's saying Pinstripe Bowl, Fenway, some other baseball field?
Probably still a little too early to make that.
What do we want? What's our highest achievement we can gun for?
let me pull up some ACC bowl tie-ins, and I will get back to you on that.
All right, yeah, you pull those up, and we'll because you got to set goals for where you want to be, I think, and you adjust those goals throughout the season. Obviously, ACC championship playoff was where it was at, but we gotta be realistic now.
I guess so. Still, regardless, the goal is to win all these games. that is the goal, and we will see what happens.
For sure. So Pitt beats UVA in a pretty solid top to bottom performance, 37-7, although that score will be misleading when it comes to Pitt's offense. And going against Duke this weekend, Vince, a team that could put up points, a team that is surprisingly 7-3. I really can't believe that is the case, but Duke's only losses to a slim margin to North Carolina, the top in the division, a slim margin loss to Georgia Tech, a team that's beaten Pitt, and a loss to the team everyone used to love in the Kansas Jayhawks. And then the rest of it has been pretty impressive all year long for the Duke Blue Devils, who are really a tough opponent. I say thank God Pitt gets them at home this weekend.
You could say that a team that Pitt has owned really since joining the ACC, only lost them one time. But this is probably one of the better Duke teams that they're going to go up against. New coach Mike Elko there has this team going pretty good. I guess an efficient team maybe is what you would call them. They don't make a ton of mistakes. Quarterback Riley Leonard, their main guy, leading the team in rushing and passing, and that's a good offensive coach there, and they're doing pretty well. Alan, you went over their victories this year. They're not any slouch. It's going to be a tough opponent. However, with the way this defensive line has been playing, Alan, they could really disrupt a lot of the things that Duke likes to do.
Yeah, when you're a team that's so heavily reliant on one player to just dictate everything you do offensively like they are, what kind of matchup is that, you think, for Pitt? Because I think against those type of players, the Pitt defense is in a better position than against the team that maybe has a pretty good running back and receivers that they're going to try to pick apart, versus a team that's going to ask their quarterback to run and gun and dictate everything and be a true one-man show like they ask of Riley Leonard. I think that bodes well for Pitt, because you get real run down and tired if you're being asked to do all that against a defense like this. If you're Riley Leonard, I think this is his toughest test all season long. No matter how good you think Duke's resume is, he hasn't played a defense playing as well as Pitt's defense is right now.
Yeah, I would say so, especially with how this Pitt defense is playing right now. Kalijah Cansey has just been a monster in there, extremely disruptive, tons of penetration. But I'll even say this guy, guys like Tyler Bentley, guys like the TJ Dragon, Devin Danielson, they've been tough specifically against the run, much better than what Pitt was at the beginning of the season, Alan, where when we were worried about this run defense. Things have really changed here with how they've been playing. Probably getting some better play from the linebacker position as well. So yeah, I think that's going to be the big thing, forcing Duke to throw the ball. They do have some decent receivers, Jalen Calhoun. It's not like there's a bunch of nobodies out there. Duke has thrown the ball when they've needed to this year, but certainly not their bread and butter. It's going to be an interesting game. Can Pitt get Duke off schedule? That's going to be the big thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. Because when Pitt played a team like this, where they're going to be, it's timing, it's rhythm, and it's multiple guys running with the ball. Georgia Tech beat them, and they had a bunch of yards from a player that I don't think ever had a 100-yard game. And so it's an interesting matchup too from that perspective. But what was it that had the 100-yard game? Hall? Was it Hassan Hall? Yeah, hadn't done anything for Georgia Tech and just destroys Pitt. I hope we don't see something like that, Vince. Pitt over scheming to stop one player or to stop Riley Leonard. They, like you said, they have multiple players. They're dangerous offense. I think Pitt's defense is totally ready for this. I don't know the over-under because, I go in blind into the show. But whatever it is, I'm betting the under because I'm really confident in Pitt's defense going into this one, especially at home.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a taste of that, Alan. The over-under total in this game sitting at 49.5 right now. A fairly, maybe a low total by college standards. Probably a lot of running expected in this one. But I think Pitt's going to be able to have some success on offense as well. They strung together a couple good drives last week. So especially in that first half, hopefully they could do the same here. I'm interested to see the evolution of this passing offense. I'll say again, I thought they played pretty decently last week. We saw more from the receivers than we had all year. Hopefully they can continue that.
And I have other questions about Duke's team, Vince, because I'll admit I think I watched them against North Carolina. And I watched their game maybe a few weeks ago against Boston College, but not too much. Would you say it's a completely different team under the new regime, offensively at least?
Yeah, absolutely. Offensively, yeah, more dynamic. Might be a little bit more creative.
Yeah, so this is going to be a different kind of game against Duke. You said Pitt's own Duke. Pitt offensively going into this game, I don't think is. Do you think they're going to be able to run down their throats the way past Pitt teams have done against this team? Because that's really, I think, a way to beat a Duke Blue Devil team, at least in the past.
Well, I think they can, but I think they can. They have been running the ball extremely successfully, the past several weeks. So I would hope that would continue. Owen Drexel back in there at center. Maybe that helped a little bit last week. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews from him. So even though they're down a few offensive linemen, they've still been running the ball pretty effectively. But to me, Alan, the big thing is those turnovers. That's what killed them in their the 3 ACC losses, and they're going to be very critical again this weekend. Duke winning their turnover margin for the year 21-7. So they don't turn it over very much. They haven't had a ton of disastrous multiple turnover games, and they're taking it from the other team a couple times a game, 3 times a game. So that's going to be big, as we've seen. When Pitt hasn't turned the ball over, the offense has been able to do enough and not put the defense in any horrible positions, and they've been able to get the job done.
Yeah, and if you watched Duke on defense too, I'm telling you they're a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. This is a team that I think can stop the run. That's what I'm asking here, Vince, because I don't think have given up 100 yards to any single rusher all year long, or if they have, maybe 1 or 2. So this is a big test for Izzy Abanikanda, Hammond, Vincent Davis. This is a game that, you're playing a team that can score and can stop the run and doesn't turn the ball over. So this doesn't need to be Pitt's best game they've played top to bottom. It just needs to be their cleanest, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll say this, the temperatures for this game, Alan, low 30s, high 20s for this game. It's going to be cold. That ball could be a little slick. It's always 10 degrees colder at Heinz Field than anywhere else in the surrounding areas. So we're looking at maybe single digits in the teens on Saturday. So holding on to that ball is going to have to be very important, extremely important. Guys are going to have to be worried are not worried, but conscientious of their surroundings. That nobody comes in and swipes that ball from you. Israel Banakanda, Rodney Hammond, whoever may be holding on to that ball, gonna have to hold on to it as tight as they possibly can.
And I just triple checked that is true. Duke has not given up a 100-yard rusher all season long, Vince. So there you go. If Pitt's going to commit to the run, they really have to commit to that and not turning it over, not getting penalized, playing smart, and I think the defense is going to put them in position to do that. So this is going to be a close one. We'll pick the winner, the score, a little bit later. I got a good feeling this is going to be a raucous crowd, a fun crowd, a big game for everybody in attendance, and that usually bodes well, I think, for Pitt. If they're playing against the team with the crowd giving them juice, they could get by, much like that West Virginia game, Vince. I don't know if the last game at home of the year will have the feel of the first, but I still have a feeling the crowd will be a factor in this one because the Pitt defense is going to be getting people hyped up. I've got a really good feeling for my man Haba in this last stand at a Creature Stadium.
I hope so. I think so. Even the game against Syracuse, there was a bigger crowd than what you would have expected.
I like to hear that, baby. That's always good news. And of course, Pitt's final home game is this Duke game, rounding off the season on the road at Miami. Vince, what do you say we move on then? We got ready for Duke. We got any quick? I know we got hoops, but you got any recruiting news?
There is some recruiting news I think that we will touch on on the Pitternet.
Okay. You're gonna let the Pitt fans online.
We'll let them dictate the show.
Us getting angry about losing recruits and stuff.
Yeah,
all right, that's fine.
We could talk about basketball very briefly here. Not good for the Panthers. Thanks. Just absolutely crushed by West Virginia and Michigan. That game against WVU, just tons of foul trouble. Particularly in that first half, multiple guys with 2 or 3 fouls early. Michigan, they hung tough, only down 6 at half, and then end up losing by 30. I don't know. They just defensively just not good, and if you pressure this team, they turn the ball over way too much, and they're just not. Don't have that, nowhere to be defensively, or they quick enough feet, or what? I don't know. It's just not good, especially going up against a strong, aggressive team like Michigan, who is pretty good. They're ranked in the top 25 for a reason. But Pitt showed in that first half they could try to keep it close there, but just not good. We'll see. There's a game against VCU later tonight as we tape this on Thursday. This live on tape show. So we'll see. They're going to have several easier games, I guess I'll call them, before ACC play starts. See if they could get a few more wins. It's tough whenever you have basically a brand new team almost every year. Guys learning to play together, and that's particularly tough on defense.
Oh, yeah, that's the name of the game now. So you need confident players who you have a little bit of swag. You need to have a little less. If you're not going to have that cohesion, then you need to make up for it in other places. Unfortunately, I think Pitt's talented enough. Like you said, the beginning of that Michigan game, I watched from Europe late night. I was like, wow. And then quickly was like, I don't know if I'm staying up for this. and the foul trouble against WVU, it's I think a team that's gonna need to grow, but in college basketball these days you don't have time to do that.
No.
So where's Pitt at as an ACC team then with that happening every year? But we'll keep following along. And VCU starting up here shortly, Vince. So let's rock and roll because you hyped it up now. I want to hear what these people are saying online. Yeah,
before we do get to that, I do want to say Pitt women's basketball 3-0 to start this season. A good start for them. talk about a team that needs to get some confidence. That's those Panthers, and they're doing an excellent job so far this season. So we'll keep an eye on them, see if they could continue to improve. But let's get to that Pitternet.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
316 South Bouquet on Panther Lair. Everything has been straight downhill since Charlotte last year. What a cluster F.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly hasn't been great. A lot of things have happened, not good. In addition to results on the field, most recently, Kenny Minchie, quarterback recruit out of where is he from? I don't have it. Not important anymore. He's not committed to the Panthers at this point. This was a guy, not a. This isn't Arch Manning or anything like that.
Hendersonville, Tennessee, Pope John Paul II High School.
Yeah, not somebody that's not necessarily expected to come in and light it up right away, but somebody who a year or two down the line was gonna be your guy, and apparently right now he's had enough, and he's going to be going to Notre Dame. But all in all, I mean, everybody, maybe it was unrealistic to expect this team to just win 10 games every year and win the ACC every year, and but I don't know.
Do you think Minchie saw that Marcus Freeman's actually not going to get fired, and now he was planning on changing the whole time?
I'm sure there's a number of factors there. It certainly wasn't the Notre Dame offense who barely could throw the ball, probably less than Pitt, actually. So I'm not, people are, clamoring about the scheme, and, Frank Cignetti, this is all his fault. And, we've talked about our, issues with him, but I'm not putting that one on him at all. This is, there's some higher powers at work here.
You never know when it comes to these Cruton stories, but that's a bummer. The good thing is I'm sure they'll have another player in place, so maybe he'll be better. And maybe they'll get to showdown. When do we have Notre Dame next
year? We will be playing the Irish in South Bend as part of a tough schedule, certainly a tough non-conference schedule. But that's next year. As far as people saying everything's gone downhill, it's certainly not as high as what we were, but I don't think it's all bad. Especially, let's see how this season ends up. If Pitt can end this season on a roll, I think that'll change a lot of people's tune.
Especially when you're looking at those defensive recruits. 121 Rum on Panther Lair said, I usually don't get petty or bitter for a decommit, but this one is pissing me off for some reason. I hope he really fails at Notre Dame. I'm with you.
Yeah,
121 Rum. He's a kid, but you know what? He's a kid making adult decisions, and
probably
getting paid, right?
Paid adult money, which is legal now.
So hey, good for him. Yeah. But I wish nothing but the worst for you on the field against Notre Dame, Kenny Minchie.
Especially when you're playing
121 Rum. Yes, 100%. Don't feel petty or bitter. 121 Rum on Panther Lair. That's a natural human way to feel. Yarnell will kick his ass when they go toe to toe, or whomever's playing for Pitt. I know it. Will K on Panther Lair. Slovis will be good in 2023. Better if Cignetti is replaced. Bartholomew's not getting the ball because Cignetti does not like him, period. Cignetti must go. Who says Cignetti doesn't like Bartholomew? Do you think he tells Slovis, okay, run this play, don't throw it to that Bartholomew?
That part I have no idea where that's coming from, but I will say it does seem like Cignetti's offense is not necessarily designed to throw the ball to the tight end. Something I would change. I think that Bartholomew guy is one of your better players, but I'm not thrilled with Cignetti this year. Not thrilled with the direction of the offense. Especially how wildly different we've seen it be this year. But Slovis, if he comes back, will he be better in 2023? I certainly think that he will. All I'm going to say about this offense is, you had a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback. You lost your top receiver. You replaced him with 2 new guys to the program. Several offensive linemen beat up. Maybe that was just too much changing to ask for a lot this year. Should they have been better? Should there have been better execution? Absolutely. But yeah, I'm as much as I'm not a fan of what Cignetti has been doing. I guess right now I'm willing to give it one more try.
I mean, I'm not one to as much as talking about coordinators and other teams and when do you pull the trigger on canning them and switching it up. I just feel like, especially with Slovis in the bag for another year,
which we don't know that.
We don't know for sure. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe someone gets injured and he gets a good chance to transfer somewhere with more playing time or more playing time in an offense he likes. I don't know. Yeah. You never know. It's college football. But ideally you just roll, year to year with the same scheme and ideas and thought process, and you grow together. And it sometimes takes more than a season. So I'm of that mindset. Everyone's impatient. Obviously, you have to be because it's win now all the time. But I don't think Cignetti has been disastrous enough to say, oh, we need to switch after just 1 year. It's been a lot of just bad play on the field. Mm-hmm. It's from really and offensive line not blocking, quarterback making horrendous throws. And it's not like they're being put in bad positions. They're just not executing. And I think if you watch game tape, you see that from this offense this year. So blaming the coaches is easy. Maybe it's not a modern type scheme that you want to see. I could see if that's your goal. If you're replacing Cignetti, it has to be something like wholly different, like something with tons of RPOs, spread wide, really fast and loose. Because if you're not going different, then I think he's giving you good pro looks, smart adjustments, and just asking he asks a lot, I think, from individuals, and they're just not performing. So that's my take so far in this year under this offensive regime, and the debate will rage on the Pitternet, Vince, and on this show. So not always going to all agree on how the Pitt offense looks, but we all agree they need to not be so stupid on the field this week against Duke, because you can't make mistakes against that team.
No, you can't.
All right. Well, that's on the Pitternet, and people on the Pitternet that's where people actually talk about recruiting. Out in the real world, no, you can't really walk into any bar and talk recruiting. I feel, Vince, or walk into any store, run into anyone. They're not going to talk recruiting. Talking about what's on the field, what you're seeing, and what everyone's seeing, and what they're all talking about is a great D line for the Pitt Panthers.
Yep.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Trying to find out what the answers are saying.
How come that defense ain't playing like that all year?
Well, that a lot of people been asking me about that, and I tell them I heard from Tommy down at Rocks that he's got family back in Italy.
Oh yeah, and what's that? You tell him.
Hobba, he took all them guys down Rome over at Tommy's cousin's place. Real nice joint, like that one Narduzzi takes all them players down to Crafton,
Oh, you mean Serafino's?
Yeah. And Tommy, he said there, them guys, they just partied too hard over there, with all them soccer players and that, they just haven't been right since.
Hey, you watching that World Cup over there in Qatar?
Where's that?
Hail to Pitt.
What the answers are saying.
That's what the answers are saying. Good to see this defensive line back in form, regardless of what the competition is. There's still 2 more games left in this regular season. We're going to need this defensive line to really carry this defense, carry this team. That's what this team was built on. the strong defensive line play. And they're getting it after right now. They're going to need to get after it in this final home game at Heinz Field, Allen. But there are a couple games out west in one of our favorite conferences that we got to discuss.
Oh, college football. Don't you tell me not to fight on. It's USC, UCLA, baby. And that's what I'm ready for, Vince. Let's do it. Biggest week of the year, even though they're not undefeated. I can't wait for that game. The Horny Toads are looking like they're a playoff-bound team. The race in the Big 12, the gauntlet is really exciting. We've got good matchups this weekend to talk about. I'm excited.
We do. Number 10, Utah, traveling to number 12, Oregon in Eugene. Utah getting, I'm seeing 2.5 right now at the Westgate. 2 points at Seasons William Hill, Allen. Oregon, they blew it last week. They absolutely blew it against Washington. That pass defense, just non-existent in that game. And
where was Bo Nix?
I
put him on this pedestal. I am the angel of death, picking these games every week.
I thought Bo Nix. I thought he played okay, but it's certainly good enough to win for the most part. But some questionable coaching decisions down the stretch, and Bo Nix did get banged up in that game. Not sure his health status for this game on Saturday night. If he does not play, Allen, I think Utah is winning this game. I do. They got the better defense, particularly the better pass defense. If Bo Nix does play, I think he's a little too athletic for this Utah defensive line, and Oregon being at home, I think they get the win. But it's gonna come down to the Bo Nix health for me.
No, after that game last week, it's so hard. These Pac-12 teams, they've got bizarre losses on their record. You think for one week, okay, you could trust Oregon, and then they go out and they just totally crap the bed like last week. So I'm rolling with the team that has disappointed not as recently. So I'm going Utah in this one, Vince, which means they'll probably lose. But the team that everyone picked at the beginning of the year to get to that Pac-12 championship, still alive, still looking good in the conference. And we're looking at essentially, I mean, these teams all have kind of cupcake games next week. So we're kind of looking at a Pac-12 championship semifinal this week with these two big games. And I think Utah wins this one, going out 37-22.
Wow. There is also Washington is lurking there. They also have an outside shot at getting this. The standings were too jumbled for me to decipher all those scenarios. So I'm going to just leave that up to next week, and we'll see where the dust settles. But this game, Alan, that I know we are both very much looking forward to. A lot of our cohorts in our circles are also looking forward to this one. Number 7 USC Trojans, a 2.5 point favorite in Pasadena against the number 16 UCLA Bruins. Total of 76 in this game. People are expecting fireworks. Nobody's stopping anybody. This is going to be a wild game. I cannot wait for this one. UCLA, a devastating loss last week to Arizona. Must have been looking ahead or something. I don't know. But I am going to side with UCLA here. I just feel that their running attack is so good that I trust it a little bit more than USC's passing game.
Oh, come on. Jordan Addison's back. And going to have a huge game. He got his feet wet against Colorado. This is his coming out party. This is Biletnikoff, Vince. This is the game that's going to make Pitt fans' head fall off USC and UCLA. Do you think I'm the only Pitt fan rooting for USC in this game?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Me and Keaton Slovis. He's probably rooting for his former teammates.
I don't know about that. Maybe. I'm going to be cheering for UCLA pretty hard in this game, and I do think they'll win. I do. Now
it's going to be a really, really exciting game because you've got superstars, I think, all over the field. Maybe not even NFL in the future, but just really good, exciting college football players. None more than Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the quarterback for UCLA. Watching him go toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams. Neither of them throw interceptions. They both make crazy athletic and inspiring plays, individual efforts. So it's going to be really exciting, I think, watching those two guys evade pressure and try to outdo each other with big plays. That's what you're going to see. And if UCLA wins, the difference will be a Jake Bobo touchdown, but I don't think that's happening. I'm going with UCLA. I'm going to go UCLA wins 45-42.
I think UCLA is going to win now.
USC, I'm sorry. USC, fight on, 45-42. And fight on all the way. And SC's gonna get. So the SC's got the driver's seat. Then I know you don't want to look ahead.
If they win, they're in.
Yeah. Okay. Good. There you go. And plus,
and still an outside shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
That's gonna be fascinating. This game against UCLA, and if they do win that showdown with Notre Dame next week. But the game we're here to talk about, high noon, a big noon kickoff on the ACC network. Duke Blue Devils getting 7.5 at Heinz Field here. I'm seeing 7.5 pretty much across the board, except at Caesars William Hill, I'm seeing 7. Total 49.5. As we said, expected a low-scoring game. Two teams that want to run the football. Coach even pointed that out this week. He said he's predicting this game to be over in 2.5 hours. We will see if that's the case. But the way Pitt's defense is playing right now, Alan, I think it's just going to be too much for Duke. I really do. I think it's going to be too much for them, and I do see the Panthers being able to score enough, not a ton, but score enough in this game, and I like the Panthers to win, and I'm going to go a score of, I'm going to say, I'll say a 24-10 score.
24-10. Okay. So I would love if that happened. That would mean Pitt played one hell of an efficient game, and probably had no turnovers and hardly any penalties. That's going to be tough to do considering their track record.
They're going to get penalties. I mean, there's just no other way around it.
Theirs. They're going to get theirs when it comes to penalties. What I'm worried about in this game is not even that Duke can stop the run, that Duke can run the ball, and Pitt's shown that at times they can get in. The defense would get in their own heads and play poorly against the run. I think the defense has cleared stuff up, so it's going to be interesting to see. This might be very low scoring. Duke, their leading sack getter, Brandon Johnson's a DB. That means they bring pressure with blitzes and sending guys and more guys than you can handle. And we've seen that Slovis, even knowing this ahead of time, reacts poorly to all-out blitzes and exotic blitzes. So seeing how Duke does that is a big factor to me, because that's where the turnovers will come into play for Pitt on offense, I think. I trust the running backs to clear up their issues they had a few weeks ago, and really I'm watching how Slovis reacts in this game. If he could be the difference, Pitt can win easily, because if he plays how you assumed Keaton Slovis would be able to play in a game, Pitt is a huge favorite in this, if you ask me, because in the other parts of the field they have the advantage. So I don't know. It's one of the most unpredictable teams in college football, but they're on a roll defensively, so I'm going to go with you. I think Pitt wins. I'm going to go 21-18.
Okay, a close one.
Yeah, but that definitely means there's like a turnover where Duke scored or something in there. And definitely penalties. Lots of penalties.
Absolutely. This there could be a Cheez-It Bowl berth on the line in this game. Two teams, looking for a big bowl bid. We'll see. Alan, you asked about bowls. It looks like they're not going to get to the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. I think that's going to be a little bit too much out of reach. Specifically, it depends on what comes around in this playoff situation and where Notre Dame lurks in all this. But a Pinstripe Bowl, a Duke's Mayo Bowl, a Cheez-It Bowl, maybe even a Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. All in play, I guess, as far as I'm concerned.
All food bowls.
Yeah.
All good snacks. The Lunchable Bowl? Is that up for grabs?
I'm not seeing
the
that.
Dunkaroos Bowl.
I think that's a Sunbelt tie-in.
Okay.
That Dunkaroos Bowl.
Okay. Well, we'll pay closer attention to that then next week, I guess.
Yeah. But we can't focus on that right now. All we could focus on is this senior day matchup at high noon, ACC Network against the Duke Blue Devils. Everybody got to get down to the stadium. It is going to be a massive game. Pitt continuing a win streak, continue to keep building on it, stacking wins here to finish this season on a high note. I cannot be more excited for this game.
I'm asking you, please, if you're going to the game, be loud. And if you're thinking about going to the game, damn it, go. Because I think Pitt's going to need it in this type of game. And you want to finish off the season with a streak. Pitt's on one, and they can continue it, rolling against Duke. Let's go. Let's get this one. Final home game of the season before that big one down south against Miami next week that we're going to talk about right here. Vince, you got anything left to tell everybody before we're out of here?
Oh, just echoing what you said. Be loud, be proud, and hail to Pitt, everybody.
At H2P Show on Twitter, if you want to hit us up and you want to email us, that's hail2pitpodcast@gmail.com. We thank Pretty Easy Podcast for helping us put this show together. Even though we're all over the world, traveling worldwide, they don't care. They don't care where you are. And they don't care as long as you're down to do a show. And we did a mean show. We laid down a mean show this week, Vince, ready for this Duke game. And we didn't even talk about the meanest man in college football, Max Duggan, that I can't wait to watch. TCU, who they play, Baylor?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's going to be rough. That if the Big 12 is going to shoot itself in the foot, it's going to be because of Baylor. That might happen this weekend. Yeah. Didn't even get into that. Enjoy so many good games this weekend. I can't wait for them all, especially Pitt Duke. Everybody, can't stress it enough again. If you're going to the game, be as loud as you were at that WVU game. We need some more of that. And let's get the win. We'll meet right back here next week to talk Pitt, Miami. Until then, hail to Pitt, everybody.